The iMusic app now has the ability to search for artists as we plug that service call into the Search Artist View controller. Let's continue on with our service implementation and implement our Load Albums method. I'll begin by importing this NS Dictionary category that I had you add to the project earlier. Just like we did for our artist endpoint, let's create a define for our album URL. So this time we're hitting the lookup endpoint, and we'll pass an ID value and get the album entities from the service. So in the Load Albums for Artists completion block method, I'll create a URL based on that album URL format string we defined above, and pass in the artist ID. I'll create a success block, and for the time being simply log that response to the console. Create a simple failure block, just invoking the completion block, passing the error if a failure occurs. I'll create a new GetRequest instance, passing in that URL, success block, and failure blocks, and then call it startRequest method. So that's the basic request response handling for this method. Let's go over to our Browse Albums View controller and have it call this service. So import the service. Scroll down and delete the sample data that we currently have in here. I'll create an instance. I'll also delete this line of code as well. Call our service method, passing in the artist that was set on this controller. Like we did before, if an error comes back in this block call, we'll just pop up a UI alert view. Otherwise, we'll just set the albums property to the result coming back in this block. And finally, we'll call self.tableView reload data to update the state of our table. So let's run it and see what happens. Foo Fighters. And when we click this row, they should invoke that method. And it does. And the response return contains all of the data for our album list. So we've got the basic request response cycle working for our albums list. And in the next lesson, we'll talk about parsing the response so we can load the collection of albums.